Deb, did it stop? Okay.
That's not what I hear.
There you go.
Pick you up if you're not talking about it.
I can do something just to make it interesting. There's a lot of sand.
No, she sounded happy she's going with you. Just tell her. Maybe it's nice you'd have time.
We spent that
Like that. That's what I told you. I said, oh, no, not yet. He said,
security phones.
right.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Right, yeah.
Is it Palmer Eye Center? Or you're in the
It's dirty time. They can sit down and
Yeah, it wasn't that it wasn't working, I don't think, it's just.
sorry about all this moving around stuff.
not me.
Make it stick. Isn't it supposed to go that way?
I guess we can come here.
Goes on the other ear.
The other ear?
Back here.
Under, whoop, there it went. Maybe I got weird ears. Huh.
It works.
Hmm. Oh, I could just use this, the handheld is fine.
I don't think it has, doesn't have batteries, does it?
Yeah.
Just change it. These people, they can't wear them on their ears.
Okay. Check. Check to make sure I don't bump anything.
Just hold your hands out.
Put my hands out. Ah. All right. Are we on? Judy, could you do second? Get extra. Okay. I know I can pick on Ted. Ted, why don't you take Genesis 6?
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, wait a minute, let me write it down. I tried to look it up here. Jude what?
6 and 7.
6 and 7 verses?
Right, because Jude is just a really short little book.
See if I can do it here. Let me see if I can
Ooh. Okay, I am. All right, very good. All right, so if you guys can hold those scriptures and. I'm sorry, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I have a friend who recently passed away in a tragic manner.
Okay.
Do you want me to read?
A little bit about a piece. I'm sorry we don't have handouts.
And
Abraham, okay.
Jacob, bottom of the letter.
Okay. Joseph.
In the shepherds abiding.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. So we know from the Bible that there are these
And there we
of time. Okay, anybody else?
Yeah,
Oh, I.
had a massive heart attack. I said, no, he's not expected to live. I'll get up here if it's okay. And we had to, Shannon said, Mom, he disappeared. He's nowhere there.
Wow, that's a great story. Anybody else? Personal experience with angels? Or maybe they've heard of somebody close to you having free will. Now is the prime. Okay, this present darkness, piercing the darkness, and I think the third one in that trilogy. If Judy and I bought it on interesting, because Frank Peretti has a way of spirit world, and can angels actually interact with our physical world?
She was being tested by God to see kind of how generous of a giver she was, because when she was putting her groceries in her trunk, a random person said, "Wait for her. She just got to thank you." So I feel like God was testing her to see how generous of a giver she was.
Yeah, well, the Bible says, unbeknownst to us, we could be entertaining angels, right? Angels can interact with talking about a specific type of angel and a specific type of interaction. 2 Peter 2, and 7 through 10. And let me give you this. Okay. Thank you.
For if God did not spare the angels who sinned, but cast them down in hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness, to be reserved for judgment, and did not spare the ancient world, but saved Noah, one of the 8 people, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the...
Oh, Corinthians.
What should he say?
Peter chapter 2.
Is it?
That's bizarre. Yeah, so
and delivered righteous Lot, who was oppressed by the filthy conduct of the wicked, for the righteous man.
Sin. Okay, and they did sin. And what happened during Noah? If he rescued Lot from Sodom and Gomorrah, and he goes on. He says, if this is so. Yeah, so with the angels, I have 2 versions here. One is the King James, and did bad things. So let's talk about a couple of those bad things. Who had Jude 6 and 7? Was that you, Beverly? Mm-hmm. Sorry, I keep...
Suffer the punishment of eternal fire.
Okay, thank you. So what was it that what was the sin of the angels? What is it that they did wrong back then? They did not keep their positions of authority. The King James says first estate. That's like where they were. They left where they were, and they King James. So it's fornication, going after was right. Gave themselves up to sexual immorality. Do you have a microphone up there? You can take this one. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Hi. Okay, Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 through 4.
Yes.
Okay. When human beings began to increase in number in those days, and also afterward, when the sun...
And then the result of that are these giant men, these mighty. Well, the King James says mighty men, and the NIV says heroes. And they took daughters. They talk about this a lot. Are not the same angels that come under the leadership of Satan. These are different angels. Did you know that? Tribulation, all these different events of history. So these angels are not the ones running around. So, now there are some to get to it again, the lesson 4 blanks. There's only 3 little bit. There are claims by past historians that these sons of God, but the lesson writer here, were sons of God. The sons of Seth were sons of God. And they were like a holy people, and they kept to themselves, and they did good things. And the daughters of Cain were bad. And then why? It's interesting that there are 4 names in Genesis chapter Elohim, I should say, and that's rendered sons of God. You had Banath Adam, sons of God, always referring to God. So in the Old Testament, the created directly people are angels, but in the New Testament, when you're talking about sons of God, that's the new creation, right? That's what God does in our hearts, and we are a new creation in Him, and so then we have the term then sons of God. So sons of God in the New Testament, that's us, the redeemed, and then sons of God in the Old Testament are angels. So we know that we're talking about angels here. In these verses that we've been reading, we are talking about actual angels. Okay, good. Now, there was resistance. Well, it started out, okay, biblical scholars started out believing sons of God meant angels. But then, around the 4th century, this interpretation was changed to this sons of Seth that I mentioned. And you think, well, why did they want to do that? Why did they want to think of sons of God as sons of Seth? Why, what was wrong is about the 4th century is when the church started this weird practice of worshiping angels. Okay, some still do. Okay, some denominations made angels, and so they didn't want the fact that these angels went that way for several centuries. Many centuries. So from the 4th centuries, this idea of worship of angels caused them to believe that what the scriptures that we just read about the church, and that is of celibacy. Okay? Like the Catholic Church priests, right? They have to remain celibate. And so they didn't want to think that the angels had the capacity to mate with human women. So, but just so you know that was a discussion, that was a debate for many centuries the pastor gave me. So, Jesus is telling us about how our marriage relates as the angels of God. There's some debate, right? That does not preclude, just because we're not getting married, right? That does not preclude, just because we're not getting married in heaven, does not mean that we're not going to recognize our spouses in heaven. Okay? So we're going to be able to get married